information and testimonies too. Resources you can rely on and a song for you. So stay tuned, cause you're on the tube with E. You're on the tube with E. You're on the tube with E right now, right now, right now, right now.
Well, hello there, and welcome to On the Tube with Ely. I am your host, Ely, and I am so honored to have you join me on the show today. Well, I know that we have not done a show in a few weeks. There's been some things going on in my life. I think I mentioned that I went to the Bahamas for my birthday, and then I had a really bad reaction to I guess it was the sun, and I think I told you about that tamoxifen, how you can't go out in the sun taking tamoxifen, because sun and tamoxifen don't mix. Well, I mean, you can go out, but just don't be out there for any prolonged length of time. So today, we're back on track, and today I want to talk to you about mammograms. I know in the very beginning of the series, I told you that I had a series of mammograms. The mammogram was one of the things that showed something irregular in my breast. But today I want to talk to you to let you know that I have been doing some research, and I have been finding out that mammograms may not be the life-saving mechanisms that they say that they are. Okay, so we're going to find out with some of the information that I'm going to impart to you today. And then, of course, we'll end the show with a song from none other than your host, me. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? By the way, I hope you're enjoying your summer. I know it's time for the kids to go back to school almost. Well, in some states, they're back already, and in others, they go back day after Labor Day. So let's ask this question. How long has this dreaded disease been around? Cancer. Okay. Well, according to, let me put my glasses on because I don't want to give you any wrong information. Okay. So according to Nafras Nizam, he was a student at Kingston University. Okay. And he said the first documented case of cancer and the oldest case was from ancient Egypt in 15,000 BC. Can you believe that? This disease has been around like forever. And the cancer then was described as tumors occurring on the breast. But no name was provided of the first patient, he said, that he was aware of. And then at that time, of course, there was no cure, or treatment for the disease. The only thing that they could do was to focus on, limiting the patient's suffering, So, and they had different methods for that. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the things that they used to use was laudanum, which was like a painkiller, and so that kind of helped, So anyway, now throughout the centuries, of course, different methods have been introduced, and this is where the mammograms come in. But according to Dr. Charles Wright, who is purportedly an expert advisor. He's a consultant in medical and academic affairs, program planning, and evaluation. And he says breast cancer screening with mammography was widely regarded as an important tool, of course, to fight against the terrible disease. And he said it seemed obvious that the earlier it could be diagnosed, the more lives could be saved. Okay. Aggressive treatment, it was thought, would prevent the cancer from spreading through the body. And a huge amount of research evidence since then has slowly and painfully led to a different conclusion. Isn't that something? So it says it's now clear that the benefits of screening mammography have been greatly exaggerated. What does that mean? Exaggerated, and the serious adverse effects all but ignored in the enthusiasm to support breast screening programs. But Dr. Charles Wright says it's time for these programs to be reconsidered. Okay, he says it must be emphasized that this is the case for the population screening of healthy women, not those with extra high risk factors. So this is a very unpleasant message for modern developed societies with 3 generations of women have been led to believe that regular mammograms will save their lives, and where an enormous related industry has been built up. He said, but it's time to face the facts. So what is he saying here? I mean, what they're saying is that they've been studying screening mammography intensively, and their most recent bulletin states that the benefit of screening 2,000 women regularly for 10 years is that one woman may have her life prolonged. Did you just hear that? Out of 2,000 women who gets regular mammograms, only one woman may have her life prolonged? That doesn't sound too good to me. What about to you? Of the other 1,999 women, at least 200 will have false positive mammograms leading to biopsies and surgery. And at least 10 women will be falsely diagnosed with breast cancer and consequently subjected to unnecessary surgery, radiotherapy, and chemotherapy. Boy, I tell you. I mean, and they say this problem called overdiagnosis, and it occurs when the biopsy reveals microscopic cells that are currently labeled as cancer by the pathologist, but with uncertain potential to cause any significant problem for the patient in the future. Now they say they have even more evidence. The Canadian National Breast Cancer Screening Study, published in the British Medical Journal and widely reported in the international media, solidly confirms that there is no upside to breast screening healthy women in terms of mortality benefit in exchange for the downside of all the adverse consequences. So what I'm hearing is that I guess you need to already have cancer or already have lumps in your breast or something that the mammograms will benefit you. Well, nobody can be happy about all this disappointing news, can they? But we surely can't ignore it, can we? So let's talk about um, what Dr. Ben Johnson says. He was also a specialist and expert advisor, and he wrote a book for women, and he says The Secret of Health Breast Wisdom. He said, because we as a medical society are giving women breast cancer with our demanding that they get mammograms. Did you just hear that? What is he saying? That we as a medical society are giving women breast cancer by demanding that they get mammograms. He claims mammograms cause breast cancer. Really? Period. So mammograms are not healthy for women. This is what he says. He says they're not healthy for women, and women should not be getting routine mammograms. He said that's crystal clear. So there was a series done, and I don't know if you all have tapped into it, The Truth About Cancer. And it was done by Ty Bollinger, you know. And Ty, he went all over the country. Well, not just even the country. He went out of the country to other countries and interviewed different doctors to get their take on cancer, on chemotherapy, on radiology, on mammograms, you know, and all these other things. And Dr. Ben, he says, he asked Dr. Ben, he says, so the detection technique that we're using, the primary technique that we use to detect breast cancer is causing breast cancer? And Dr. Ben Johnson says, absolutely. He says, it's a terrible test. He said, you know, smashing women's breasts and then irradiating with cancer-causing radiation. And then it's so insensitive. So for women under 50, it's only like 52% effective. That means 52 is pretty close to 50, right? So he says that means that half the women that have breast cancer, it would not detect their cancer. What? You mean that if you have breast cancer, this mammogram test that they're giving us would not detect it? Well, he says there's better tests. He says there's better tests. So don't, that's, you know, that's not a hopeless situation. And that's good to know. He said there's better tests. So he says that there's two better options. If you've got a lump and you think you got something, ultrasound is great. Okay? Ultrasound. I know, you know, most women who have children have had ultrasounds. It's a test of anatomy, he says. He says mammograms are tests of anatomy. Ultrasounds are tests of anatomy. So why not get the safest one, which would be the ultrasound, right? He said MRIs are tests of anatomy. So if you've already got a lump, you want a test of anatomy, but you want a safe test of anatomy, right? Okay. So that would be like an ultrasound, because when they give you the ultrasound, they can see the lump. They can see its consistency. They can see if there's calcium in it, and they can look at the blood flow, because tumors they're gonna have increased blood flow. So for instance, sensitivity of ultrasound is up around 80%, Dr. Ben Johnson says. He said it's much higher than mammograms, and the sensitivity is higher too. So it's, you know, better for detecting this breast cancer. He says But if you're looking about prevention, if you're talking about screening, he said there's really only one device out there, and that's thermography. Thermography. He says it's an infrared thermal camera, and I've heard of that, you know. I thought maybe that was something that I was going to have when they were diagnosing me. Unfortunately, they gave me mammograms, but I already had a lump. So, you know, prayerfully to God that mammogram or those mammograms did not cause it to develop any further. So, Dr. Ben Johnson, he said the military developed this ultralight, and I know you've seen those nighttime goggles. Well, this is what. Okay, so we were talking about that thermography, and the military are the ones responsible for developing this thing. It's like infrared, you know, where they can see the warmth of something, you know, and they used it so that they could catch the enemy before they snuck up on them, you know. And so, or even they could shoot down missiles, you know, because they could detect them by the heat sensors. And so, this is what Dr. Ben Johnson says this thermography is, which is, I think that would be pretty good, because you could probably detect different lumps and stuff, you know, inside the body, because it would, you know, radiate some type of heat. So, Dr. Ben Johnson, he says that long before the tumor grows, that there's cancer cells, and they probably, you know, had been in there at least 8 to 10 years before there was a tumor, before the cancer cells started to grow. 2 cells, 4 cells, 16 cells, 144 cells, etc. They multiply. And he said it takes about 8 years until you get to about a centimeter in size for even a mammogram or an ultrasound to detect it. Now, that's actually how, well, no, mine was like 2 centimeters, you know. That lump that was in my breast, it was 2 centimeters. Well, why didn't the mammogram pick it up when it was 1 centimeter? Okay, well, I don't know, but, and he says, and by the time it gets to be 1 centimeter, it's too late, because that 1 centimeter tumor, about 5/16 of an inch, is about 1 billion cells. Can you imagine? I mean, I know that cells are so microscopic and tiny that you can't fathom a billion of them, but that's what cancer cells do. They multiply, and they grow, and then they cluster, and they become tumors. So anyway, I guess the conclusion is that don't get a mammogram. Not unless you just truly have no other choice in the matter. If you go to the doctor and the doctor suggests mammograms, say, well, is there an alternative method that we can do? Ultrasound, thermography, or something, MRI, anything other than a mammogram. Now, I'm just telling you the information that I gathered ultimately will be your decision. But I hope that you learned something today. I know I certainly did. I'm really disappointed that they knew the truth about these mammograms. And I had heard that some years ago that mammograms were not safe, but you know how you hear things, but you're not sure about it. And so I did some research, and I'm under the impression that I would not recommend anybody to get a mammogram. So, and that's my show for today. Next week, we're going to be talking about oxygen for the body. And I will let you know some ways that you can oxygenate your body. Because guess what? Cancer cells cannot survive in an oxygenated body. So I'm looking forward to doing that show, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here. You have been watching On the Tube with Ely. God bless. I can't do this, y'all. I need your help. I can't do this all by myself. I need your help. I can't do this all by myself. I need your help. Sitting here contemplating about all the things in my life. Sitting here concentrating, trying to figure out what's wrong and what's right. I know I'm supposed to pray each day, supposed to stay on my knees, but some things I just don't understand. So won't you help me, please? Yeah, yeah. I need your help. I can't do this all by myself. I need your help. I need your help. I just can't do this all by myself. I need your help. You know I wanna give my reasonable service in the army of the Lord, but sometimes just loving the unlovable. Ooh, you know it gets so hard. I know I'm supposed to pray each day, supposed to stay on my knees, but some things I just don't understand. So won't you help me, please? Help me, please.
need.